2016 saw instability around the globe and a historic presidential election here at home. Those stories and more dominating the headlines in 2016.
Back up.
The year kicked off with an anti-government demonstration. Armed militants took over a federal wildlife refuge in southeastern Oregon. The standoff finally came to an end in mid-February. Marines in Mexico captured the world's most wanted drug lord, El Chapo Guzman, nearly 6 months after the escape from prison. World powers lifted sanctions against Iran after international inspectors announced the country had followed through on the promise to dismantle parts of its nuclear program. President Obama declared a state of emergency over the lead-contaminated water in Flint, Michigan. Nearly a year later, the water is still not safe to drink unfiltered. The conservative Justice Antonin Scalia died in February. President Obama nominated federal Judge Merrick Garland to replace him, but Senate Republicans have refused to schedule his confirmation hearing. The feds got into a legal standoff with Apple after the San Bernardino terror attack. A judge ordered the tech company to unlock the iPhone belonging to one of the killers. The feds later dropped the case, saying they were able to pull data from that phone without Apple's help. In North Carolina, the then governor, Pat McCrory, signed the state's controversial law to limit bathroom options for transgender people. In response, major companies announced their plans to take their business elsewhere. In Baltimore, a judge found police officer Edward Nero not guilty of all charges in the death of Freddie Gray. The case later ended with 0 convictions against officers. The biggest shakeup in recent political history after Donald Trump won enough delegates to clinch the Republican presidential nomination. He later announced Indiana Governor Mike Pence as his running mate. And Hillary Clinton secured the Democratic nomination after an unexpectedly tough challenge from the independent senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders. She later chose the Virginia Senator Tim Kaine as her vice presidential candidate. The worst mass shooting in modern American history happened in 2016 when a gunman opened fire in a gay nightclub in Orlando, killing 49 people. He died after a shootout with police. Britain shocked the world when it voted to leave the European Union. Financial markets around the globe plunged after the decision. The U.S. Defense Secretary Ash Carter lifted the ban on allowing transgender people to serve openly in the U.S. military. NASA's Juno spacecraft flew into Jupiter's orbit on the 4th of July, giving us our best look yet at the largest planet in the solar system. Back here on Earth, the FBI Director James Comey announced his decision not to file criminal charges against Hillary Clinton. But just days before the election, Director Comey said investigators were reviewing thousands of newly discovered emails that could be related to the case. After reviewing the new emails, Comey said he is still not recommending any charges against Hillary Clinton. The year also saw major attacks targeting law enforcement officers in several cities. The deadliest happened in Dallas. A suspect shot to death 5 officers ambush style during a protest against police violence. Officials in Florida announced the first locally transmitted cases of the Zika virus here in the United States. The feds have since warned pregnant women to avoid parts of the Miami area. Nearly 300 people died after a powerful 6.2 magnitude earthquake hit central Italy, bringing down buildings and trapping people under debris. Here in the United States, a series of attacks just hours apart. Investigators say a suspect stabbed 10 people at a mall in St. Cloud, Minnesota. An off-duty cop later shot the suspect and killed him. That same weekend, handmade bombs exploded in areas of New York City and New Jersey, injuring nearly 30 people. Police later arrested that suspect after a shootout. The feds banned the Samsung Galaxy Note 7 cell phone from all U.S. flights after reports the smartphone could overheat and burst into flames. Samsung also announced it would stop selling that phone entirely. A massive hack attack on the internet shut down access to major websites across the nation. The cyber attack targeted a company that manages crucial parts of the web. Donald Trump pulled off perhaps the biggest political upset in history, winning the election to become the country's 45th president. The billionaire and former reality TV star won the Electoral College, but lost the popular vote to Hillary Clinton. Fidel Castro died at the age of 90. The dictator ruled Cuba for half a century. President-elect Trump has called on the island country to improve its human rights record, threatening to reverse President Obama's work to normalize relations with Cuba. And the year closed out with a tragedy here at home. Dozens of people died after a fire broke out at a warehouse in Oakland, California, where crowds had gathered for a concert. City officials said they had already been investigating that warehouse for code violations. Looking ahead to 2017, President-elect Trump begins his first year in office. The whole country waiting to see how he follows through on his promise to make America great again and his pledge to drain the swamp of corruption in Washington, D.C. We'll keep a close eye on the fight against ISIS and the civil war in Syria. Of course, we'll be here for all of it. In New York, I'm Shepard Smith, Fox News.
No justice, no peace! No justice, no peace!
I don't worry.
Now it's time to get together.
Recent natural disasters. Number 12. Louisiana floods. Floods in Louisiana have left at least 10,000 people homeless in August 2016, and President Obama officially declared it as a state of emergency. It's the worst natural disaster to strike the United States since Hurricane Sandy. More than a foot of rain fell in one night, causing devastating floods. This shocking photo shows caskets washed up from the graveyard and floating down the street. Residents have needed to rebuild many areas that were hit hard after the severe storms. Some people still need a boat in order to save people from the flooded areas. The cleanup cost will amount to at least $30 million. Number 11. The Myanmar earthquake. The earthquake that struck Myanmar damaged dozens of historical structures. At least 185 Buddhist pagodas in Pagan, built from the 10th to 14th century, have been severely damaged. This 6.8 magnitude earthquake shook the central region of Myanmar, killing at least 3 people. This is sure to put a dent in the growing Myanmar tourist industry, since the site damaged is home to more than 2,500 Buddhist monuments. Officials are consulting architects in order to repair some of the damage done to this ancient city. Aftershocks were felt in Bangladesh, Vietnam, and even in India. Number 10. Vanishing of Lake Chad. Due to an intense, long-standing drought in Central Africa, a massive famine has struck the residents nearby Lake Chad. This lake seems to have greatly dwindled from its original size, as you can see from this photo. From 1972 to 2016, it's virtually vanished, and many are becoming malnourished and starved as a result. There are adults completely exhausted and basically paralyzed from hunger. 2.5 million people have already been displaced from the fast-drying lake area, according to the United Nations. African leaders are urging that something be done quick in order to save more lives. We can only hope this won't lead to too much civil unrest. Number 9. Midwest tornadoes. At least 21 tornadoes struck the Midwest region of the United States, but luckily no lives were reported lost on August 25, 2016. However, residents in the Indiana town of Kokomo will be cleaning up severely damaged homes and businesses. They suffered from winds reaching speeds of 152 miles per hour, destroying dozens of homes and leaving a path of destruction. This Starbucks here completely collapsed when it was visited by Indiana Governor Mike Pence. Number 8. Extreme wildfires, California. California has been victim of severe wildfires, and one of the more recent at the time, the Blue Cut, was wreaking havoc area east of LA. An estimated 80,000 people have been warned as these extreme wildfires continue to leave homes in ashes. The plumes of smoke have gotten so horrific that they can even be seen from space. The wildfire was finally contained after a week of burning, but not without 100 people's homes burning to the ground. The Hearst mansion was in danger of the destructive blaze, but luckily, officials were able to contain the fire before it destroyed this historic landmark. A few other wildfires, like the Soberanes fire, killed one person and destroyed 68 structures. It began burning since July, growing over 93,000 acres. Number 7. Massive fish kill. Imagine waking up in the morning, coming outside, and all you can smell is the rotting bodies of dead fish in the air. Millions of dead fish washed up ashore in northern New Jersey, August 23rd. Officials originally estimated only a couple 100,000, but after further investigation of the cities in the area, they believe it's more like 1 million fish. They were apparently killed off by low levels of dissolved oxygen in the water, meaning they basically suffocated. This is why people put bubblers in their fish tanks. Ecological factors like pollutants can severely affect levels of this essential underwater element and cause fish kills like we see here. Cleanup efforts have been made, however. Number 6. India floods. While some countries are losing water, other countries are facing floods like they've never seen before. The recent floods in India have killed already 300 people, and the mighty Ganges River is now at a record level high. Most of the deaths were caused by drowning, electrocution, or even building collapses. Heavy monsoon rains are only going to make this disaster even worse. More than 5 million are estimated to be affected, with crops and homes destroyed by the flooding of this river. Cremations at the holy city of Varanasi were halted, which is a very important religious ceremony for the followers of Hinduism. More than 100,000 have to be forced to leave their homes just in Uttar Pradesh. Number 5. Italian earthquake. A massive 6.2 earthquake struck the Umbria region of Italy in late August 2016. An estimated 250 are dead, burying people alive while they sleep. The hardest hit cities were that of Amatrice and Accumoli. The earthquake devastated mountainside cities, and rescuers searched through rubble and debris, hoping to find any survivors. The man captured in this image is lucky to be alive, and that someone found him. Only a few buildings appear to be standing, as you can see from this photo of the city of Amatrice. Number 4. Korean heat wave. In August 2016, South Korea is suffering from a heat wave, and they're reaching the hottest temperatures they've seen since 1994. They've seen an average daily temperature of 91 degrees Fahrenheit, or 33 degrees Celsius on an average day in Seoul. But other cities can get much hotter. This doesn't only affect the people living in South Korea by making them turn on their AC more often, but it could have an impact on their drinking water and fish supply as well. The heat has encouraged algae to grow at abnormal levels, polluting many rivers the South Koreans rely on for drinking water and making them green in the process. And it's also killing off the fish supply, affecting fishermen's jobs. Number 3. The River Seine flooding. In June 2016, the River Seine saw some of the most shocking floods within 100 years, causing some touristic buildings in the area to prepare for disaster. Parisians were advised to avoid the River Seine, and the Louvre closed its doors in order to evacuate some priceless artwork. From this photo, you can tell how high the water levels truly are compared to the normal levels, and how it may be frightening to onlookers. This, of course, didn't make Paris any less romantic, and this Chinese couple tied the knot despite the flooding. Other towns north of Paris, in the Ile-de-France region, like Asnières, experienced water levels severe enough to completely submerge vehicles like you see in this photo. Number 2. Sudan flood. A flood at the beginning of August caused thousands of homes to be destroyed, and several villages flooded. It's caused 100 people across this country to lose their lives. The death toll continues to rise, as this has left many homeless and farmers without crops, unable to provide food. Many have been advised to flee the area as the River Gash is expanding at unprecedented levels. This also provides challenges for the villagers to reach the capital of Khartoum. Floodwaters have affected the main highway to the city. Many are doing their best to get out, even if that means transversing through the murky waters. Number 1. Reindeer lightning strike. 323 reindeer were killed by a lightning strike on August 26, 2016, in central Norway. Wildlife experts are calling this an unusual natural disaster. The whole plain seems to be littered with dead bodies of reindeers in a somewhat apocalyptic scene. A few reindeer reportedly survived the incident, but had to be put down later due to gruesome injuries. According to a Norwegian wildlife expert, reindeer tend to stay close together during bad storms, and an unlucky strike caused a large amount of them to die. This by far seems to be the largest number of animals killed by lightning at one time. The previous record was 68 cows that were killed on a dairy farm in Australia, 2005.